Hello and welcome to 3.0 TV. I am Ruchi Sharma. Joining us today is the true pioneer in India's digital asset revolution, Mr. Vikram Rangala, Executive Director at ZebPay, one of the country's oldest and most trusted centralized exchanges, founded in 2014. A seasoned trader, strategist, and thought leader, Mr. Rangala has also served as Chief Marketing Officer at ZebPay, helping shape its brand and mission during key phases of growth. Mr. Rangala is also featured in the acclaimed documentary God Bless Bitcoin, sharing insights alongside industry leaders like Michael Saylor and Mark Cuban. With deep expertise in markets and a strong voice in the global digital asset space, he brings a unique perspective on innovation, regulation, and the future of finance. We are honored to have him with us today to share his perspective on the future of finance, the role of centralized exchanges, and the evolving crypto landscape. Welcome to 3.0 TV, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
So the Bitcoin has recently reached its new all-time high amid increasing institutional demand.
Yeah.
What do you think? How sustainable is this rally? And what is the role of centralized exchanges in shaping the market momentum, or the current market momentum?
As you know from looking at the history of Bitcoin, it goes in waves. So the current short-term rally, it'll go to whatever high it decides to go to.
Right.
There will inevitably be a correction as Bitcoin changes hands. The price will drop, but then we'll begin again and have another roughly 3.5 year cycle, 4-year cycle. It kind of goes along with the halvings. We had a halving last year.
Yes, we did.
And so that rally, is not sustainable in the sense that we're going to have a correction. It always happens. The long-term future of Bitcoin is that it's going to keep going. I think especially because so many institutions have come in.
Right.
Some of them are serious. Some countries and states in the U.S. that are talking about Bitcoin strategic reserves. That may or may not happen. It may or may not need to happen. That's an open debate that we'll all have. But the fact that institutions with that much capital are choosing to put some of that capital into Bitcoin. Bitcoin now has a higher market cap than everything except gold, Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon, I think. It's the 5th largest asset by market cap.
Right.
And it keeps climbing that ladder. Eventually, it'll surpass gold. But
It will?
I think so. But that may be a long thing. But if it comes down to a battle between Bitcoin and gold, if you think about it, they're roughly the same. Gold has a much longer tradition, but you can use them for the same thing. The only difference is I can send you Bitcoin, from my phone to your phone. To send you gold, I have to, go get some gold and carry it, and it's heavy and much more difficult than sending Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is actually the digital gold.
It's much more than digital gold. I mean, it has other functionalities. And so, and we're still learning about those. Even the institutions who are coming in, some of them are seeing it just as an investment. Others are seeing it as the technology that it really is. It's more than just an asset. It's a technology.
So if we see the trend, so we generally see that Bitcoin rallies, then altcoin rally follows, and then meme coin rally.
Yeah.
But do you think this trend will follow again, repeat itself again? And which sector do you think will get the most traction? Where will the funds flow?
That is an open question. I'm not sure. I can take some guesses, but you're right about altcoins tracking with Bitcoin.
Right.
I've been interested to see that a few of them actually, they'll diverge from Bitcoin. Solana sometimes does its own thing. And I've sometimes had trades on in both markets. And I've seen that Bitcoin will be rallying and Solana will just be sitting there or even down a little bit. But these are short-term fluctuations. Generally speaking, I think it's more a function of the way that people are investing right now. People kind of invest in baskets. And I think we should be honest in saying that a lot of people who are investing haven't really read the white papers for the various tokens. They have some understanding of them. But in many cases, I think there are probably a lot of people who are investing in or trading, buying Aave or Solana or Tron or something like that. they don't really know what Tron does or what Ripple does, but they know that it's rallying, and so they'll join in.
Right.
It's a kind of diversification, right? If in the stock market, you see that if there's a general rally of the stock market, people will often not just buy Apple stock. They'll buy Apple plus a few others.
True.
It's not that Apple is leading all the other techs. I mean, one may rally more than the others, but it's because people diversify their portfolios. And there's a certain amount of portfolio diversification also among crypto investors. So
Ethereum being the second largest cryptocurrency, why is it lagging behind? Like we are seeing it's been lagging behind for quite some time now. And when do you think it will pick up?
do you mean in market cap or in the
Market
price?
cap and prices, because it has a huge ecosystem, you know.
It does.
It leads in DeFi, but why is the price, why isn't catching that momentum?
So, I mean, they're structurally different. So we'll have to come back to your question about meme coins, because meme coins are a whole other, the reasons why people trade meme coins. I'm not big into trading meme coins, but I had some friends who are experts in this explain it to me, and now I finally get it. But we'll come back to that.
Okay, right.
Ethereum, actually, ZebPay, you know, we actually are very interested in Ethereum as an asset and have been for a long time.
Yes.
But the two things they perform different functions. Bitcoin, I mean, everybody says store of value. It is mostly that. There are some things like ordinals where people are using the blockchain to perform other functions besides just transactions. Ethereum was designed to be an operating system like Windows or Mac OS for this global decentralized world computer. So it's made for building apps on. Bitcoin was not. And so the valuation of Ethereum in the minds of investors is going to have to happen based on how they value that operating system. The more they see that valuable dApps, digital applications, are being built on Ethereum, then I think people will come in with the mindset of investors. You know, if you can build something that is the next Amazon on Ethereum, and people say, wow, this is like Amazon, but better for whatever reason. I'm just making up an example. Or if people come up with a dApp that is an insurance application, for example, and that's a much more realistic scenario. People are working on insurance using blockchain. If it gets good enough that people start putting serious capital into it, then people will say, wow, how do I get in on investing in this insurance thing, this blockchain-based insurance thing? Then people will ask, and what is it built on? Ethereum? Okay, I've heard of that. Let's invest on the foundation as well as this application.
Right.
So Ethereum's newer. It's just, from 2015, and really 2017 is when it kind of took off. Bitcoin is, had a head start.
In 2009.
So, yeah, but, most people I talk to think that Ethereum will start to catch up, will get to a point where it's a 1-to-10 ratio that, maybe where if Bitcoin's at 200,000, Ethereum may be at 20,000 each.
Okay.
Yeah. Will it ever catch up to Bitcoin? I don't think so, because Bitcoin's only function is to hold capital and keep it safe from inflation. So that's where capital is going to go, right? Because that's what it's designed to do. Ethereum, the capital comes in as a secondary market to support the functionality of Ethereum. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. Ethereum is made for building things on.
Building things on.
So the market that's not the builders, but people who believe in the builders and want to invest in the builders, that's the secondary market. And their faith in the builders is what drives the price of Ethereum.
So, because actually before, when Bitcoin used to rally, Ethereum used to catch up. So last year, when Bitcoin reached its all-time high, Ethereum also reached its all-time high of $4,800.
Yeah.
But this time, when Bitcoin has, reached two all-time highs,
Yeah.
if I count the $100,009 and now $111,000, but Ethereum has it's not even close to its last year all-time high. So that relation is somehow broken.
It is. And I think people who are, more expert than I am will point to things like the presence of Solana and Polygon now as competitors. Ethereum has competition.
Yes, it has strong competition.
It does.
Because other blockchains have faster transactions, lesser fees, and also, like Ethereum started the smart contracts,
Yes.
it developed the smart contracts, EVM.
It
But
did.
now other blockchains are getting a better version of smart contracts.
Exactly.
And they are upgrading their technology.
They are. But Ethereum has some tricks up its sleeve that are yet to be announced, right?
Right. They have.
Remember the last time when it rallied to 4,800, the merge had happened, which was a huge upgrade in Ethereum's technology.
Right.
Ethereum has some more upgrades coming.
Spectra happened and one more is about to
Yes.
come. Yeah,
Yes.
Right.
You really know your stuff. This is amazing. Those things are going to allow Ethereum, they say, to compete on speed once again.
Right.
In which case, the advantage of something like Solana may go away. Ethereum may be a more worthy competitor and take the title back, so to speak.
Okay.
And so those delays do happen in part because of just the timelines of the development of the technology, right? It's like if a company builds electric cars and they have a new model that they've announced, but it hasn't come out yet, the stock price isn't going to rally until
we have to be hopeful.
Ethereum investors certainly are, and with good reason. Ethereum has not disappointed up till now. And so there's a lot of smart people. If you've ever gone to a DevCon, first time I went to DevCon, the most remarkable thing was for me, Ruchi, I was there for 6 days. Nobody at DevCon talked about the price of Ethereum to me once. I don't think they even knew what the price of Ethereum was. They were all just concerned with what can we build on it. Everybody was about building.
Right.
And they were showing off these great technologies that they were working on and these new applications. And so, which is a really good thing because these assets were meant to solve problems in society, not just give, rich people a new way to gamble.
Actually.
Right?
True.
Yeah.
So we are seeing, historic lows in Bitcoin exchange reserve and record highs in future open interest. Is this a sign of, maturing market structure, or does this introduce systemic risk into, increased leverage and reduced liquidity?
I hope I won't annoy you by saying that the answer is actually both.
Both? Okay.
Yeah. And let's maybe take them separately.
Okay.
Risk is inherent to any market. So, yeah, when you have more variables coming into the market, as we're seeing, you're introducing new risk. Also, so I'm a futures and options trader. These are derivatives, and I used to work for a derivatives exchange in Chicago.
Right.
Derivatives have a plus side in that they add liquidity, they can add stabilizing factors and ways for people to discover price and find what should be the most acceptable price for any asset. And so that is a sign of maturation, right? That we have derivatives on these assets means that people see these assets as something that should have an ecosystem built around it. But derivatives are also risky assets. Warren Buffett famously advised most people just stay away from them. Just invest in conservative things. And a lot of I've never really I'm not a stock trader, and a lot of my friends who are, they're kind of alarmed. They said, "You only do futures." I'm very unusual that way. I do futures and crypto, and I still don't invest in stocks, which is really strange because this is seen as the dangerous side and stocks are seen as the safe side.
Right.
Not necessarily. There's ways to, risk is inherent in all of these. Risk is inherent, but crypto is not, by nature any more risky than anything else.
Okay.
It's just that, you can be stupid and lose money in any market, to put it bluntly.
That's true.
And you can also be properly educating yourself and coming in with an awareness of the risk. In which case, now derivatives and crypto offer people a new way to hopefully grow their accounts, maybe hedge against risk in some ways. People can be long the actual asset, but hedge using the futures or options, things like that. And people are starting to explore those.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving away and talking about Bitcoin ETFs. So Bitcoin ETFs have begun, influencing inflows significantly.
Yeah.
How's the central exchanges adapting to this era of regulated financial products? And according to you, is it a threat or a complement to traditional exchange model?
It's a compliment, and it's a good thing. First of all, let's make sure everybody understands who's watching this. Bitcoin ETFs are stocks. They are not crypto.
Yeah.
Someone who purchases a Bitcoin ETF is not purchasing crypto in any way. So if you're worried that it's a way to get into crypto, no, it's an ETF based on the price of this other asset. So, and for a lot of people, it's a very easy way. If you already have a stock brokerage account, you can just add this as a way to add the movement of Bitcoin into your overall portfolio. You can use it as a hedge or a diversification, whatever it is. Now, I do think people should eventually try to actually own Bitcoin. It's a good thing. Everybody should have 1% of their net worth in Bitcoin if possible, and maybe more.
Okay.
But these kind of things, any centralized exchange, I guess I can speak for ZebPay, we were never afraid of it. We wanted these things. The same way, we were calling for regulation long ago. And, we started training police cyber cells back in 2015 on how to use blockchain for investigations. And so, we've trained, actually our teams have trained a lot of the police all over India in how to conduct investigations, because we're aware that the same way that the US dollar can be used to fund crime, Bitcoin can be used to fund crime,
right.
Gold can be used to fund crime.
Yes.
And so we need education on how to investigate that. So if you believe in a technology and its growth, then you have to welcome all the different ways in which that's going to expand. And Bitcoin ETFs are part of the mainstream acceptance of the value of Bitcoin.
So the retail activity remains, significantly muted compared to the previous bull runs. How can how can we make the retail segment to, re-engage?
Well, the increase in taxation on Bitcoin transaction, or on crypto transactions now, has affected all exchanges in India. I think a lot more people are also using non-Indian exchanges. You're asking about India in particular, aren't you? Or are you asking generally? Generally.
Yeah.
I think globally there is actually a lot of retail activity. It's just that if you count like the total volume, then yes, one institutional investor coming in and buying thousands of Bitcoins at a time is a much huger event than 10,000 people buying small amounts of Bitcoin at a time.
Right.
So yes, the volume, in dollar terms or in absolute terms, is on the side of the institutions. But if you look at overall retail activity or small investors, individuals, India has more crypto investors than any other country on the planet.
True.
And this is a very actively interested crypto community in this country. And it's not just people in tier 1 cities, as you call them. Tier 2, tier 3, at ZebPay, we have plenty of people who, they live in small towns and villages. They've been, buying Bitcoin for years. They've been our customers for years. ZebPay's been around 10 years. We still have some of those folks, and they don't all live in Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore. They're all over the place.
Right.
And that's really wonderful to see, because for many of them, their lives are transformed. And that's a wonderful thing, because they started buying Bitcoin when it was $1,000 or $5,000.
So talking about regulation, the Supreme Court is questioning the central government as to why aren't there clear regulations for cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
So how is your exchange ZebPay navigating through these regulatory uncertainties, and how much is this lack of regulation impacting the Indian crypto ecosystem? and the innovation?
There's a question that's been there. I've been with ZebPay 5 years. I started as the CMO, and then now I'm on the board. I probably got asked almost the same question even then. So, we were part of the team that brought the court case in 2020 that was settled in 2020 when the Supreme Court ruled that overturned the RBI ruling stopping banks from doing business with crypto. And we've always had to deal with the fact that, crypto is perfectly legal in India, but it's unregulated. And when you have that, there's no choice but to be self-regulated. So from 2014, when ZebPay started, basically our strategy has been look at every bank and insurer and everybody in the BFSI, ask what are the most stringent, robust AML, KYC, procedures that are out there. Who is really tough on KYC? Who is doing the most strict things for preventing money laundering and doing that? And how can we even proactively go out and work with police to do this? And we just set up rules for ourselves. As the other exchanges came along, we're the oldest. So they basically, we freely shared what we knew. And so they've mostly followed suit and adapted. But the crypto industry has had to do that. But, I can say, we've been around for 10 years. Knock on wood, we'll be around for another 10 years. And we do strict KYC. We work actively with law enforcement on any potential, we red flag anything that looks like a possible money laundering or other bad actor case and things like that. And it's worked, but it would help to have a standardized protocol for the country and for the world that allows people to not say, well, this country is a little looser, so, let's try to do some shady business there.
Right.
Every country needs to do that. So, the Indian government was right in saying we're going to draft our, legislation and our rules on crypto and our regulations from a global context. But the Supreme Court also has, I think, a useful point, which is that it's time
to make these rules.
Yes, because
and draw the legal framework around it.
Now you have almost every major banking institution, BlackRock, Fidelity, all of these are vast. They have their assets under management are larger than many countries.
True.
And India is a global economic superpower that deals with all of these, that deal with the IMF, that deals with Europe and the United States. And to have that disconnect for any longer will make things difficult. And it also makes it so that, I meet a lot of really brilliant blockchain entrepreneurs. They're building these startups that are going to do incredible things using blockchain. They're not building to try to create some random meme coin to make a quick buck.
Right.
They're not really concerned with the coin. They're concerned with how can I fix insurance? How can I fix hiring? How can I met an entrepreneur, they've got a company that is vetting engineers and making sure by testing them that they really have the credentials and the skill sets that they need to have, and then certifying that on the blockchain so that any company that wants to hire, they can instantly just look at the list, get basically an NFT type of certification that says this engineer really is this good, and he's ready to go if you need him to program in this language, or if you need her to develop this kind of software, it's safe to hire. So this will, be a tremendous good.
Right.
But all of these entrepreneurs, they're telling me, yeah, we're looking to set up in Dubai. We're looking to set up in Abu Dhabi. We're looking at Singapore.
They're all moving to Dubai.
Because it's not that it's hostile here. It's just there's no place to set up shop here.
Right.
Because the regulations are so difficult. Even just a simple protocol that would allow entrepreneurs who, they believe in Make in India. They really are proud to be Indians. And that's very touching to see. they should feel at home in their home country.
Right.
I feel.
So talking about on the global level with with global regulatory pressure tightening, especially on centralized platforms, how to ensure that these Bitcoin or other crypto assets are accessible while staying compliant?
I think standardization, so that getting every country to kind of agree to a certain set of basic protocols that allow
Global standards for regulation
yeah,
that all countries follow.
yes, without being too much. I mean, you really only need the. I'm not an expert on this, but my sense is you need agreement that we will do these things to solve these particular problems, particularly money laundering and use of blockchains for transactions that might hide criminal activity,
Terror financing.
There should be no gaps anywhere. There should be no safe haven countries anywhere. Or if some country chooses to be a safe haven, everybody should be aware of it and be able to actively, not get fooled by it, and know that everyone else is trustworthy because they're on the same basic system. Then from there, different countries can choose different solutions for their various, needs inside their countries. Larger countries may have a different way of approaching it. Small countries may need to do different things. But, probably if they can agree on how to prevent the bad things from happening, then each country can find its own creative solution to help the good things to thrive.
And it benefits everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
I know that's a very vague answer, but that's, it's a big world.
Right, true.
Yeah.
So lastly, what is your advice to the crypto investors or people who are now beginning or trying their hands at?
So this is, I was at a screening of God Bless Bitcoin last night. I got a chance to be in this documentary.
I actually want to congratulate you for the
Thank you.
for the documentary. You've been a part of that. It's a great documentary, and you've been there with the likes of Michael Saylor.
Yeah,
It's doing great.
I really was surprised to find little old me with Michael Saylor and Mark Cuban and Robert Kiyosaki and the current health secretary of the U.S. and a whole lot of people. The specific reason is the focus of the movie is how the philosophy and economics of Bitcoin align with the spiritual values of the world. And so
it's a very different perspective.
It is, but if the documentary makes the case very well. And if you think about it, the whole reason Bitcoin was created by whoever Satoshi Nakamoto was, and I'm wearing the first paragraph of the Bitcoin white paper, on this T-shirt. He didn't do it to create a new way for people to gamble or a new way for rich people to just, drive the price of something up and make more money. It was, I call it a form of satyagraha, a kind of nonviolent protest against a system that is making inequality worse, that is shutting women and girls out of access to economic institutions and depleting people's hard-earned value savings through inflation that we're not consenting to. It's like a tax that, And Satoshi Nakamoto, in the very first Bitcoin transactions, he added a little note which was a reference to a headline on a British newspaper saying central bank to do another round of quantitative easing. It was his message to the world that this software that I've released to the world for free is a protest against this system that is harming us. And we need to make a change now. Whoever Satoshi Nakamoto is, or they, if they're still around, they should get the Nobel Peace Prize because it was designed for, because see, that's the system also that funds war.
Right.
So anyway, the movie, the producers were looking for someone who understands Hinduism and Bitcoin and could talk about things like Vedic economics and the Arthashastra. So I asked them for 2 months to research, and I did a deep dive into Kautilya's economics and things like this. And there are some great economists in India studying Kautilya and trying to find applications to the modern economy. And I think even Nirmala Sitharaman and others are discussing this, how ancient Indian economics is absolutely applicable to now, and I believe that. Bitcoin is very compatible to that. We had a sound money economic system in India for centuries.
Right.
And India for over 1,000 years was a dominant global superpower, and at the same time a spiritual superpower. Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, all of these religions found homes and found expression in this country, in part because of a dharma-based economy and economic system. And so Bitcoin is a way for us to kind of maybe move back towards that kind of value system.
time.
So anyway, but after the movie, I was asked, how do I get started? I'm convinced Bitcoin seems like a nice thing. How do I do it? I told people, start by finding an exchange you trust. Obviously, you know the one I work for, and I do trust it, and I have my own account there. But I tell everyone, just buy 100 rupees worth, or if you're in the US, $5 worth. And
Start small.
the reason is this. Sit with it for, I'd say, buy 100 rupees worth, and then just sit with it for 2 weeks and let it sink into your mind that, okay, you're one of those people now.
And then you're going to hold it for 2 years. And then
Well,
10
no,
years.
just really just hold it. Just hold it. And once you've accepted that, okay, because you'll tell your friends, hey, I just bought my first Bitcoin. Some will say, oh, me too. Others will say, are you crazy? What are you doing with that? And you
So you have to
adjust
slowly
to it.
build trust.
Trust and self-confidence in it.
Right.
You should never invest because somebody else tells you it's a good
Right,
idea.
true.
You should feel it inside yourself, and that's true of Bitcoin or anything else. So having bought the 100 rupees, sit with it for 2 weeks. That'll probably by itself make you want to go and ask Google or ChatGPT, what have I just done? I just bought some Bitcoin. What is it really? You'll learn with a new sense of interest. Then the best approach for anybody is, I'm a trader, but most people should not be traders.
Why do you say that?
It's not easy. And it's emotionally draining. And most traders lose money. It's the same way most people should not practice surgery. Surgeons should practice surgery
okay, like that.
with the proper training and a desire to be surgeons, right? Instead, just treat it like an SIP. I'd say every Saturday,
Just
buy another 100 rupees worth of Bitcoin, or up it to 500 rupees, 1,000 rupees, whatever it is, take maybe your total amount that you were planning to save and invest over the coming year, divide that by 52, because there are 52 weeks in a year, and then take some percentage of that, and every week, once a week, buy a little Bitcoin. Just put it away.
Okay.
And just do that for the next 10 years, and you'll thank yourself.
That's great advice.
It's that simple, and really you shouldn't complicate it further than that.
Thank you so much for sharing
Thank
such
you.
vast and deep
We never got to
insights and
meme coins,
knowledge.
but yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Maybe next time.
Next time.
And thank you so much for giving us your valuable time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, that's all in this conversation for now. This is Miyuchi Sharma signing off. Keep watching 3.TV.